they encouraged it in the way that they will match it, which is that we spend, I'm going to be a little imprecise, 40 cents, we get 60 cents more. Those of you who are in our conference remember when I held up a sign to that effect, which I probably have in one of these files, but I'm not going to pull it out. But if you recall, I held up a sign that said, for every 40 cents we spend, we get 60 cents back on the dollar if we're using it for health care reasons approved by our colleagues in Washington. So,
a point of order.
Senator DeFrancisco, point of order.
I'm just wondering if there's any rule of germaneness in an answer to a question. Does our rules have any?
No, Senator DeFrancisco, there isn't.
Okay, thank you. So we'll just wait.
Well, I know through you, Mr. President, that it sounds.
Senator Klein.
Mr. President, a point of order.
Point of order, Senator Klein.
I hope the members on the other side of the aisle will conduct themselves with the proper decorum, not get personal. We're debating the budget, which is, of course, very important to all of us. And under General Rule, Section 9, 4B, members are expected to uphold the highest standard of civility in dealing with other members, and I hope they'll all do that.
Point of order.
And I hope that the entire chamber will have that degree of civility outlined by Senator Skelos and Senator Smith earlier today.
Point of order.
Yes, Senator DeFrancisco.
With respect to civility, I am the epitome of civility. I can't imagine how I'm being so patient. I think part of civility is when you have a debate and ask a question that there's a good faith opportunity to give an answer that has something to do with the specific question. And I would hope that in answering questions, there would be civil and germane answers rather than what we've heard so far, and it's nothing to do with personal, it has to do with reality of what we've been listening to. So I don't know if he remembers the question or not. I could repeat it if he doesn't.
Senator Duane, do you recall the question?
Mr. President. Yeah. I guess I was originally responding to the preface of the exact question that was being put on the table, which I thought was in the bounds of providing an answer.
There's been a lot of talk about the 3 New York City Democrats in a room and the lack of transparency. The budget debate is another example of the lack of transparency. I just hope this series of questions that Senator Robach had asked Senator Duane and the ones I asked are seen by every New Yorker, because it is total lack of transparency. If the chairman of health cannot give a clear answer to the simplest of questions in an open meeting in this wonderful chambers, then how are all the providers supposed to decide what this budget means to them? How are we supposed to decide whether this is a good budget or not? And to suggest that this is a personal thing, it's absolutely not a personal thing. It has to do with the quality of the question and the quality of the answer. And anybody who's watching this question and answer period cannot come out of it with any other conclusion that the answers were total obfuscation. That's all it was. Because he either didn't know the answers or he didn't want to provide the answers. Well, as to the last question I asked during the hearings, and I thought he was there as well during the hearings with Mr. Senator Duane was during the health part of it, there were questions asked about the total amount of money spent on personal care in the state. And the answer given was $1.4 billion, $1.1 billion of which went to the city of New York. Now, there must be some way of determining in this budget how much money is being projected to go to the city of New York this year and the rest of the state. I don't think that's a fair share. Either the system is wrong in the way it determines who's entitled to it, because it's personal care, because it's different in New York City than elsewhere. And if it's a different system, then the people upstate are not being provided with the proper personal care or the right amount. If, on the other hand, they're being provided with the right amount, then New York City's wasting a heck of a lot of money on personal care and there's an area where we could save in order to provide in other areas, because reform is what we should be doing, not the nonsense that this budget shows. So I think that answer had to be readily available, but I think in all honesty the answer was one that he didn't want to give, because it's got to be embarrassing not only to Senator Duane, who was from New York City, but the three New York City leaders that sat in that room, that there's such an unfair distribution of personal care dollars throughout the state. It's totally embarrassing, and it's got to be corrected. And obviously, it's not going to be corrected in this budget, or we would have heard about it. Graduate medical education. You know, these teaching schools have to know what they're going to get. They have to know, they have to plan their budgets. How do you possibly plan your budget if you've got to wait for some process to happen that no one can even explain, other than, well, there's pots here, there's pots there, and we'll try to help them planning. When who's going to try to help them planning if this body who's passing a budget can't even explain what the system is or give any idea of how that number is going to be determined? You know, it's personally embarrassing to me, and it's not my responsibility to be on this floor and try to explain a budget to another senator. It's personally embarrassing to me that the public can't get a straight answer, even in the openness of the sunlight of this beautiful day today, that we can't get a straight answer, or an answer that can give anyone a way to plan the future of their particular aspect of this budget, in this case, health care. So because of that, and because of so many other reasons, I'm going to vote no on this bill. It's a bill that not only is unexplainable by the sponsor of the bill or the chairman of the Health Committee, I think it's unexplainable by anyone, since no one, whether it's a hospital, whether it's a nursing home, whether it's a medical college, nobody could figure out what's in store for them in the future. And if they can't plan from day to day, then how are they going to provide this quality health care that everyone claims that they're in favor of? They just can't. You can't do it. So I'm going to vote no on this budget bill for those reasons and many other reasons. So thank you, Mr. President.